Hattie Marsh dropped the peach pie. She stood there in the middle of the road and could not pick it up. Her eyes were locked on the man stepping down from the stage, the same man whose handwriting she'd memorized for 6 straight months. He turned his hat in his hands, tipped his head. "Pardon me, ma'am. I'm looking for a Miss Hattie Caldwell." She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because Hattie Caldwell had a husband buried under the peach tree out back, and Hattie Caldwell, by every right and reckoning, had been dead near on 3 years. Before we ride into Red Fork, Texas in the summer of 1878, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and stay with Hattie's story all the way to the end. And drop a comment below telling me what city you're watching from tonight. I want to see just how far this story carries. Hattie Marsh. The voice came sharp from her left. Mavis Coulter. The sheriff's wife had her parasol up like a courtroom finger. "Hattie, are you ailin'?" Hattie did not answer. Could not. The pie sat broken in the dust between her boots. "Ma'am?" The stranger took one step closer, stopped himself. "Am I addressin' the right house?" Hattie's hand fluttered to her throat, to Elias's locket. The chain was warm from her skin. "Hattie!" Mavis's parasol swung toward her. "Hattie, this gentleman is speaking to you." The word stuck. She swallowed. "I beg your pardon, sir. Who is it you said you were looking for?" "Miss Caldwell, ma'am. Hattie Caldwell. She's expectin' me." Mavis's parasol tipped a quarter turn. "Caldwell." "Yes, ma'am." "There ain't been no Caldwell in Red Fork, mister. Not for the better part of a decade." The stranger's brow drew together. He reached one hand back to touch his saddlebag. "Beggin' your pardon, ma'am, but I've got 6 months of letters here postmarked Red Fork, Texas. Every last one signed Hattie Caldwell. Letters." Mavis turned the parasol toward Hattie like a compass needle finding north. "Letters from who now?" Hattie bent. She didn't know why she bent. Her hands found the ruined tin and the split crust and the slow ooze of peach syrup soaking into the dirt. "It was the heat," she said. "I felt the heat." "Hattie?" "I'd best be getting home, Mavis." "Hattie Marsh, you turn around." But Hattie was already walking. She made herself walk, not run. She kept her chin up. She made the corner. She made her gate. She made her front door, and she shut it behind her, and she set the broken pie tin on the kitchen table, and she pressed both palms flat against the wood until the table stopped moving under her hands. She stood like that a long while. She had thought she would have more time. She had thought she would have any time. She had thought when his last letter came, Miss Caldwell, the trail riders, a poor courtship, and a worse husband. "I aim to put down my saddle. May I come and see you plain and proper before the summer's out?" She had thought she would write him back and tell him. She had thought she would write him no. She hadn't. She had written him yes. And now Samuel R. Garrison stood in the road of Red Fork, Texas, with 6 months of her lies in his saddlebag, and Mavis Coulter standing beside him, eager as a coyote at a wounded calf. It had started the morning she found Elias's chair empty for the 1,000th time. 3 years a widow. 3 years of laying out 2 cups for coffee before she remembered. 3 years of waking on her side of the bed, with her hand reaching every dawn for nothing but cold sheet and colder air. She had been turning the pages of the Galveston Tribune, looking for a notice on a heifer she meant to sell when she'd seen it. Drover seeks correspondence with respectable young woman of plain habits and sober mind. Christian preferred. Object matrimony if mutual sentiment permits. Address letters S. Garrison, care of Front Street. Mercantile, Fort Worth. She had cut it out with her sewing scissors, folded it small, slipped it into the pages of her Bible at Ruth chapter 1. "Whither thou goest, I will go," and left it there 16 days. On the 17th day, she had taken Elias's good fountain pen down from the shelf, and she had sat at her kitchen table, and she had written, "Dear Sir." She had crossed it out. "Dear Mr. Garrison." She had stared at her own hand for a long minute. Then she had written, "My name is Hattie Caldwell. I am 26 years of age. And she had stopped. Because Hattie Caldwell was 26 the year she'd married Elias Marsh in the front pew of the Methodist Church. Hattie Caldwell was the name of the girl who'd carried his peach pie out to him in the field while he was breaking sod. Hattie Caldwell was the name of the woman who had a future to give a man. Hattie Marsh, 29, was the name of a widow. She had not crossed it out, and I keep a small house at the edge of Red Fork, Texas, in Pemberton County. I am a Christian woman. My habits are plain. My mind, I believe, is sober. I cannot promise what sentiment may grow between us, sir, but I am pleased to begin a correspondence if you are inclined. Yours, in fair faith, Hattie Caldwell. She had walked the letter to the post office at sundown, and Mr. Pell had looked at her over his spectacles and said, "Mailin' something, Ms. Marsh. Just a note to my cousin, Mr. Pell, up in Fort Worth." Don't recall you having a cousin in Fort Worth. My mother's side, Caldwell folk. He'd weighed the letter on his little brass scale. You ain't sent nothin' since your husband passed. Time to mend fences, Mr. Pell. Reckon so. He'd held her eyes a moment too long. Reckon so, Ms. Marsh. She had paid her coin and walked out into the dusk and gone home and sat on her porch and watched the sun fall behind the cottonwoods and prayed God forgive her. She had truly prayed that S. Garrison would write back. He had written back 11 days later. The Pell boy had to call her name 3 times before she heard him on her knees in the kitchen garden with dirt up to her elbows. She had read the letter standing where she stood. Dear Miss Caldwell. His hand was strong, slanted hard to the right. Each letter pressed a little too deep, like a man not accustomed to writing soft things. I thank you kindly. I had near give up hope on the notice when yours arrived. I will be straight with you, ma'am, on account of straightness being the only currency a man like me carries. I am 34 years old. I have been a drover most of my life. I have seen the trail from Brownsville to Dodge City and back, and I am tired of seeing it. I should like to put my feet down on a piece of ground and stay there. I should like to have a wife. I should like to be the sort of man a wife is glad to come home to. I have no living family. I do not drink to excess. I have killed 2 men in my life, and both were trying to kill me first, which I tell you now, because I will not begin a courtship on a foundation of half-truths. If that turns you from this correspondence, I will understand and bear you no grudge. If you are still inclined to write, I should like to know what you do for work, what books you read, and what your voice sounds like when you laugh. Yours respectfully, Samuel R. Garrison. She had read the letter 4 times. Once standing in the garden, twice on the porch. The 4th time at the kitchen table by the kerosene lamp with the moths beating soft at the chimney glass. And she had thought, he has told me about killing a man. And I cannot bring myself to tell him about Elias. She had picked up the pen. She had told him about her work. She took in mending. She sold preserves at the church bazaar. She had told him about her books Mrs. Stowe and the Bronte sisters and the King James. She had told him her laugh sounded according to her late father like a turkey being chased by a dog. She had not told him about Elias. That was 6 months ago, and in those 6 months he had written her of cattle drives and prairie storms and a man named Beecher who had once tried to cheat him at cards and lived to regret it. He had written her of his mother who had died of cholera when he was 11. He had written her of a horse named Honey he had loved more than was sensible to love a horse. He had written her in his last letter, Miss Caldwell, you have made me a different man on paper than I have any right to be in life. I aim to be that man in life too. May I come? And Hattie Marsh had written back, yes, Mr. Garrison, come. The knock at her door came an hour after the stage. Hattie did not answer. She stood in the kitchen with the broken pie still on the table, and she listened to his boots on her porch, and she pressed both fists hard against her mouth. He knocked again. 3 times. Patient. Not hard. Miss Caldwell. She squeezed her eyes shut. Ma'am, if I have come to the wrong door, I beg your pardon. Just say so plain, and I'll trouble you no further. She did not move. A pause. The boards creaked as he shifted his weight. I rode 320 miles to meet a woman I have come to admire considerable. If she ain't behind this door, I'd be obliged to know where to look next. Her hand went to her mouth. And if she is behind this door, his voice dropped lower, gentler, and she's finding herself in some difficulty, I'd be obliged to know that too. She opened the door. He stood with his hat against his chest in both hands. He was a head taller than her at full height. There was nothing in his face but plain, patient waiting. "Miss Caldwell," he said. "Mr. Garrison. It is you, then?" "It—" She drew breath. "It is, sir. And it isn't." His brow shifted, just a hair. "I don't reckon I take your meanin', ma'am." "Mr. Garrison, will you?" She stepped back from the doorway. "There is a thing I need to show you, and after I show it to you, you may turn around and ride back to Fort Worth, and I will not blame you a half ounce for it, and I will not write to you again, and I will pray for your kindness all the rest of my days." He held her eyes a long moment. "All right, ma'am," he said. "Show me." She led him through the parlor, past Elias's pipe still on the mantel, past Elias's Bible still open on the side table to the page he had read aloud the night before he took the fever, past the framed daguerreotype on the wall of Elias in his Sunday coat, with his arm around her shoulders, taken 3 weeks before he died. Sam Garrison's eyes passed over the photograph. He did not stop. He did not ask. He followed her out the back door, past the kitchen garden, past the henhouse, past the woodpile, to the small fenced patch at the edge of the property where the peach tree drooped low with summer fruit. 2 stones stood beneath the tree. One marked the grave of a baby girl who had not lived to be named. The other was bigger. The other had a man's name carved deep into it. Elias J. Marsh, beloved husband of Hattie, 1844-1875. Sam Garrison stood and read the stone. He read it for a long time. Then he took his hat off entirely, held it down at his side. "Ma'am," he said, very quiet, "you been writin' me as a single woman these 6 months past." "Yes, sir." "Under your maiden name?" "Yes, sir." "You let me ride 320 miles with a fair piece of my heart in my saddlebag to find you." "I did, sir." He nodded once. Slow. "Now I'd be obliged," he said, "if you'd tell me why." Hattie Marsh stood beside her husband's grave and looked up at the man she had spent 6 months falling for on paper, and she opened her mouth to lie one last time, and she did not. "Because Hattie Caldwell," she said, "is the only part of me that ain't buried in this dirt." He didn't move. He didn't speak. He looked from the stone to her face, and from her face back to the stone. "He'd been gone 3 years, ma'am. 3 years come October. You loved him, more than was sensible to love any one man. And you been wearing his black ever since." "Every day, sir." He nodded once. "Miss Caldwell," he said. "Mrs. Marsh." "Mrs. Marsh, then. Mrs. Marsh, I'd be obliged if you'd tell me one more thing." "All right, sir. In them 6 months of letters." He turned the hat slowly in his hands. "When you wrote me about your work and your books and your laugh and your mother's bread and the foal you raised the year you was 8, was that woman tellin' me the truth, or was she tellin' me a story?" Hattie's eyes filled. "She was tellin' you the truth, Mr. Garrison. She was—" every word but her name and her widowhood." "Why hold them 2 back, ma'am?" The tears came down her face. She did not wipe them. "Because if I had told you I was a widow," she said, "you wouldn't have written me back. And her voice broke. "I needed somebody to write me back, sir. I needed it bad. I needed somebody to know me as something other than the woman who buried Elias Marsh. I needed there to be a Hattie left over. I needed it the way a body needs water." A long silence. He did not look away from her. A horse whinnied somewhere down the road. A meadowlark called. Mavis Coulter's parasol no doubt was still in motion at the post office. Sam Garrison looked down at his hat. He looked at the stone. He looked back at her. "Mrs. Marsh." "Sir?" "I rode 320 miles. I know it, sir. I aim to take a room at the boarding house tonight. Mr. Pell will see you fixed up, sir, and tomorrow morning. His voice was very steady. Tomorrow morning, I aim to come back here, and I aim to knock on this door, and I aim to ask you a question. The same question I've been working up to ask Hattie Caldwell, and I'd be obliged, ma'am, if you'd be here to answer it. She stared at him. Sir, You don't have to answer it tomorrow. You don't have to answer it ever. But I aim to ask it, ma'am, of the woman whose letters I read by firelight from Brownsville to Fort Worth, and that woman by my reckoning is standing right here. Her hand went to her throat. Mr. Garrison. Sam. Sam. It came out of her as a whisper. He set his hat back on, touched the brim, stepped back from the grave. Tomorrow morning, Mrs. Marsh. Tomorrow morning, Mr. Garrison. He turned. He walked the long way back through her property, past the woodpile and the henhouse and the kitchen garden, and through her parlor and out her front door. And Hattie Marsh stood beside her husband's grave, with both hands pressed to her mouth, and listened to his boots go down her porch steps, and out her gate, and into the dust of Red Fork. She stood there until she could not hear him anymore. Then she sank slowly to her knees in the long grass beside the stone, and she pressed her forehead against the carved letters of her husband's name, and she said low and shaking, Elias, Elias, what have I done? The peach tree's branches stirred above her. A single hard fruit dropped into the grass at her side, and from the road beyond the gate, faint and getting fainter, came the sound of Mavis Coulter's voice, raised and carrying, and already telling the whole town of Red Fork, Texas, exactly what she had seen. Mavis Coulter did not wait until supper. By the time Hattie rose from her husband's grave and brushed the dirt from her skirts, Mavis had already crossed the road twice, once to the post office, once to the parsonage, and was working her way down Main Street with her parasol cocked like a pistol. A stranger reverend from Fort Worth, with letters. Letters, Mrs. Coulter. 6 months of 'em. Signed Caldwell. Her maiden name Reverend, as if Elias Marsh had never drawn breath in this town. Reverend Aldous Pike set his coffee cup down very slowly. Mrs. Coulter, I should hate to think you have misheard. I heard plain, sir. I stood 3 feet from the man's saddlebag. He said it twice. And Mrs. Marsh dropped her pie in the dust and ran like a thief. The Reverend was quiet a long moment. I will speak with her this evening. You will speak with her now, Reverend, or I will speak with her myself. Hi. Hattie was at the kitchen table when the knock came. She had not lit the lamp. The pie tin sat where she had set it, and the broken crust had begun to draw flies, and she had not moved to clear it, because moving felt for the moment like more than her body could be asked to do. The knock was not Mavis. The knock was 3 slow, formal raps, the kind a man uses when he is bringing news of the dead. Mrs. Marsh. Reverend Pike's voice came soft through the door. She rose, smoothed her skirt, opened the door no more than a foot. Reverend. May I come in, child? It ain't a good hour, sir. Hattie. His voice was kind. That was what frightened her most. It is the only hour I've got, and you may have fewer than that. She stepped back. He did not sit. He set his hat on the table beside the ruined pie and looked at the pie a long moment without remarking on it. Mrs. Coulter has been to see me. I expected she had. She is at this very moment on the porch of Mrs. Eulalie Hart. Hattie closed her eyes. And after Mrs. Hart, the Reverend went on, she will go to the Tilghmans, and after the Tilghmans the Beechams, and by sunrise tomorrow there will not be a household in Red Fork that has not heard you have been writing love letters to a stranger under your maiden name. They were not love letters, sir. Hattie. They were not. Hattie, I am not your judge. I am your minister, and I am your friend, and I am telling you what the rest of this town will not. She stood with her hand on the back of Elias's chair. What would you have me do, Reverend? I would have you tell me, he said, whether the man at Pell's boarding house is still under the impression that you are an unmarried woman. He is not. You have told him. I have told him. The Reverend exhaled. Some part of him sagged. Then there is mercy in it yet. Is there, Hattie? He reached and took her hand. His was dry and old and warm. 3 years your husband has been in the ground. The Lord does not require you to follow him there. Her eyes filled. The town does, sir. The town is not the Lord. The town is the one who sells me flour. He held her hand a moment longer. Then he let it go. I will speak from the pulpit Sunday on the subject of charity. It will not signify reverend. It may signify some. Mavis Coulter does not hear sermons. Mavis Coulter delivers them. He almost smiled. He stopped himself. Hattie, the man at the boarding house. Yes, sir. Is he a good man? She thought about it. She thought about it longer than she needed to because she wanted to be sure. He is the best man, she said, I have ever read. That is not what I asked. I have not known him long enough, sir, to answer the question you asked. Reverend Pike picked up his hat. Then know him longer, he said, before the town runs him out. Sam Garrison did not make it to supper at the boarding house. He had unsaddled his horse at Pell's stable. He had paid for 2 nights in advance. He had washed the road dust off his face at the pump in the yard, and he had walked into the dining room with his hat in his hand and asked Mrs. Pell very polite what she had on the stove. Mrs. Pell had looked at him. She had not answered. She had walked instead to the door of the kitchen, and she had said over her shoulder, Lemuel, come here. Lemuel Pell came out wiping his hands on his apron. He looked at Sam Garrison the way a man looks at a snake that has come up through the floorboards. Mr. Pell, you are the gentleman who come in on the 4 o'clock stage. I am. You was asking after Hattie Caldwell? I was. There ain't no Hattie Caldwell in this town. So I have been informed, sir. What there is a Hattie Marsh, widow of Elias Marsh, who was buried out of my brother's church 3 years back, come October. I am aware, Mr. Pell. Lemuel Pell looked him up and down. Then you'll be wantin' your money back, mister, and you'll be wantin' to catch the mornin' stage to Brownwood. A small, very still pause. No, sir, Sam Garrison said. I do not believe I will. Mrs. Pell made a noise in the back of her throat. Mr. Pell? Sam set his hat on the hat tree by the door. He did it slow. He did it like a man who meant to stay a while. I have paid you for 2 nights. If you would prefer to refund my coin and turn me out, I will go down the road and ask Mr. Hennessy at the livery if he has got a hayloft to spare. But I will not be riding out of Red Fork on the 4 o'clock stage tomorrow, nor on any stage thereafter, until I have had the conversation I rode here to have. Mr. Pell's jaw worked. That woman is the widow of a man this town loved. I do not doubt it, sir. And you come riding in here under a lie. I came riding in here, sir, on the strength of 6 months of correspondence, the contents of which I will not discuss with you nor any other man in Red Fork. The lie, if there was one, was not mine to tell, and it is not mine to answer for. My name is Garrison, Samuel R. I would be obliged if you would use it. A long silence. Mrs. Pell stepped back into the kitchen. She did not slam the door. She closed it with great and pointed care. Lemuel Pell stood looking at Sam Garrison a long moment more. Then he said, Stew's on the back of the stove. You can serve yourself. The dinin' room will be empty tonight on your account. Thank you, Mr. Pell. Don't thank me, mister. I done it for the other guests. Hattie had begun the burning at 9:30. She had taken the box from under her bed. The cedar box Elias had built her for a wedding gift, with her initials carved into the lid. She had carried it to the kitchen, and she had set it on the table beside the ruined pie, and she had opened it. 6 months of letters. Tied with a ribbon, she had taken off her wedding bonnet. She had pulled the first one from the stack. She had held the corner of it to the chimney of the kerosene lamp. She had watched the paper catch. Dear Miss Caldwell, I had near give up hope. The flame ate the words. She let it burn down to her fingers before she dropped it in the wash basin. She reached for the second letter, and she stopped. She sat with the second letter in her hand, and she thought about Sam Garrison's face at her husband's grave. She thought about the way he had not looked away. She thought about the way he had said the woman whose letters I read by firelight from Brownsville to Fort Worth. She thought about the fact that she had before tonight exactly one thing in this world that belonged to her and not to her dead husband. 6 months of letters from a man who had not yet decided to leave her. She put the second letter back in the box. She put the lid on. She took the box to her bedroom and she set it under her bed where it had lived for half a year, and she sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, and she pressed both hands over her face, and she did not cry. She did something more dangerous than crying. She hoped. The knock at her door came at 10:30. It was not Mavis. It was not the Reverend. It was a man's voice, and it was a voice she did not know, and it said, "Mrs. Marsh, open this door." Hattie froze in her bedroom doorway. "Mrs. Marsh, I have come a long way, and I will not be made to stand on this porch." She crossed the parlor. She did not light the lamp. She put her hand on the door. "Who is it, sir?" "It is your kinswoman. Open the door." Her hand went cold on the latch. "I have no kin in this part of the country, sir." "You have a brother-in-law, and he is standing on your porch." Hattie Marsh closed her eyes. She had not seen Cyrus Marsh in 9 years, not since the wedding, not since he had stood at the back of the church with his arms crossed and refused to come up and shake his brother's hand. She opened the door. Cyrus Marsh was bigger than his brother had been, heavier through the shoulder. His beard had gone iron gray. He carried a saddlebag in one hand and a Winchester rifle in the other. "Cyrus." "Hattie." He looked her up and down. "You look thinner." "I am thinner." "I expect you are. Word reached me down in San Saba that you have been keepin' poor company." "Word reached you fast, sir. The telegraph, Hattie. It is a wonder of the age." He stepped past her into her parlor. He did not ask. He set the saddlebag on Elias's chair, and he leaned the Winchester against the wall beside the door, and he looked around the room of his dead brother's house like a man taking inventory. "Cyrus, it is late." "It is." "What is your business, sir?" He turned to her. "My business," he said, "is my brother's land, which has sat in the hands of his widow these 3 years, on the understanding that she would conduct herself as a widow, which understanding, from what I am told, has lately come into question." A slow cold ran down her spine. "This land was deeded to me, Cyrus. This land was deeded to Mrs. Elias Marsh Hattie, which you cease to be by my reckoning the moment you take up with a stranger from Fort Worth." "I have not taken up with anyone. Mavis Coulter says different." "Mavis Coulter does not own this land." "Mavis Coulter does not." His eyes settled on her. "But the Marsh family does. And I am the head of the Marsh family now my brother is dead. And I have come to see Hattie what is to be done." She stood with her back to her own door in her own parlor, and she could not get her breath. "Cyrus, I have run this farm 3 years. You have. I have not asked the family for $1. You have not. This is my home, Cyrus." "It is your home," he said, "as long as you remain my brother's widow. The day you cease to be that by deed or by deed, it reverts. That is not the law. That is the Marsh law, Hattie, and you have known it 9 years. She could not breathe. "Where will you sleep tonight, Cyrus?" "In my brother's house." "Cyrus, in the spare room, woman. I am not an animal." He turned his back on her. He began to unbuckle his saddlebag. "And tomorrow morning, I will go and have a word with your gentleman caller at the boarding house, and we will see between the 3 of us what is to be done." Sam Garrison was on the porch of Pell's at 5 minutes before sunrise when Cyrus Marsh came up the road. He had not slept. He had read his Bible by the kerosene lamp, and he had cleaned his pistol, and he had run the words he intended to say to Hattie through his mind 100 times, and now he sat on the porch step with his hat on his knee, and he watched the big man walking up the road, and he knew before the man opened his mouth what manner of business he had come on. "Mister?" "Sir, you'd be the gentleman from Fort Worth." "I'd be one such gentleman, yes." "My name is Cyrus Marsh. I am the elder brother of the late Elias Marsh of this town." Sam Garrison set his hat on his head. He did it slow. He stood up off the step. "Mr. Marsh, you have been writin' letters to my brother's widow." "I have been writin' letters, sir, to a woman who signed her name Hattie Caldwell." "Same woman. So I have lately learned." "Then you'll understand, Mr. why I have come to see you this mornin'." "I understand, sir, that you believe you have." A pause. "Mr.?" Cyrus Marsh's voice dropped. "I am going to give you, for the sake of my brother's memory, a kindness I do not generally extend to men of your sort. I am going to let you ride out of this town today. I am going to let you ride out without any further business with the widow Marsh, and without any further correspondence, and without any further inquiry. I am going to let you ride out, Mr., with my name unmentioned and yours unsullied." "That is generous, Mr. Marsh." "It is. And what is my alternative, sir?" "You do not want your alternative, Mr." "I might surprise you, sir." Cyrus Marsh shifted his weight. The Winchester was at his back. Sam Garrison saw the strap of it over his shoulder and did not look at it twice. "My alternative, Mr., is that you and I have a more lengthy conversation, the sort that is generally had in the street, with witnesses." Sam Garrison was quiet a long moment. Then he said, "Mr. Marsh?" "Sir, I rode 320 miles to ask Mrs. Marsh a question. I will ask her that question this morning as I told her I would. After she answers it, whichever way she answers it, I will conduct myself according to her wishes. Not yours, not mine. Hers. Mr. If she tells me to go, I will go, sir, and you will not see me in this country again. If she tells me to stay, I will stay, and you will see a great deal of me indeed. You do not understand, Mr., what manner of family you are putting your hand into." "I understand, sir, what manner of woman I am putting my hand toward. The family I will reckon with as it comes." A long silence. Cyrus Marsh's mouth tightened. "You are a fool, Mr." "I have been called worse, Mr. Marsh, by better men than you." "We will see." "I expect we will." Cyrus Marsh turned. He walked back down the road the way he had come. Sam Garrison stood on the porch of Pell's boarding house and watched him go, and his hands at his sides did not shake, but it was a near thing. Hattie was in the kitchen washing the broken pie tin when Cyrus came back through her door. He did not take off his hat. "He is not leavin'." She did not turn from the basin. "No." "You knew that." "I hoped it." A long silence behind her. "Hattie." "Cyrus. You have a choice to make today." "I know it." "Do you?" She set the pie tin on the drain board. She turned and looked her brother-in-law full in the face for the first time in 9 years. "Cyrus Marsh, I have made the choice already." "Have you now?" "I made it the night I cut the notice from the Galveston Tribune." His jaw worked. "Then you understand what it costs." "I understand, sir, that it costs me this house, and this land, and the peach tree under which my husband and my child are buried, and the opinion of every soul in Red Fork that drew breath while Elias Marsh was alive. It does." "I understand it, Cyrus." "Then go and tell him." "I will." She walked past him. She did not look at Elias's chair. She did not look at the daguerreotype on the wall. She did not look at the Bible on the side table. She walked out her front door, and down her porch steps, and out her gate, and into the dust of Red Fork, Texas, in her widow's black, with her hands at her sides, and her chin up, and her late husband's locket warm against her throat. And every curtain on every house on Main Street twitched as she passed, and Mavis Coulter on the porch of the post office set her parasol down very slowly. And from the porch of Pell's boarding house 200 yards off, Sam Garrison rose to his feet. He took his hat from his head. He stepped down off the porch. He walked toward her. And halfway between Pell's and the post office, in the middle of the dusty road of Red Fork, Texas, with the whole town watching from behind their curtains, Hattie Marsh and Sam Garrison met for the second time in their lives. He stopped 6 feet from her. He turned the hat slow in his hands. "Mrs. Marsh." "Mr. Garrison. You come to give me your answer." "I come, sir," she said, "to give you a question of my own first." He waited. "Mr. Garrison." Her voice did not shake. She was as surprised by that as anybody. "If I tell you that stayin' in Red Fork cost me my house and my land and the good opinion of every neighbor I have got, yes, ma'am. And if I tell you that I have nothing to bring to a marriage but a trunk of clothes and 6 months of letters in a cedar box, yes, ma'am. Will you still ask me your question, Mr. Garrison?" Sam Garrison was very still. The whole street was very still. Mavis Coulter's parasol did not move. "Mrs. Marsh," he said, "I will ask you my question, and I will ask it, ma'am, on one knee in this road in front of God and Mavis Coulter and the entire town of Red Fork, Texas. If that is what it takes for you to know, I mean it." And in the middle of the dusty street, before the eyes of every soul who had ever spoken her late husband's name, Samuel R. Garrison went down on one knee. A sound went up from Mavis Coulter's throat that was neither word nor scream. Hattie Marsh did not hear it. Hattie Marsh heard nothing but the man on one knee at her feet and the slow, hard knock of her own heart against the locket at her throat. "Mr. Garrison." "Mrs. Marsh." "Get up off that ground." "No, ma'am." "Sir, get up. There are women on this street who will not let you forget this hour till the day they die." "I am countin' on it, ma'am." Sam. It was the first time she had said his Christian name out in the open. It came out of her mouth like a thing she had been holding under her tongue for 6 months. He looked up at her. He did not move from his knee. "Mrs. Marsh, Hattie, I have not yet asked the question." "Then ask it, sir, before this whole town has a stroke on its porch." "Will you marry me?" A silence so deep that a meadowlark out past the livery sounded like a brass band. Hattie Marsh took one slow step backward. She did not mean to. Her body did it without her. His face did not change. "Take your time, ma'am." "Sam, you take all the time you need." "I am not." Her hand went to her mouth. "I am not refusin', Mr. Garrison. I cannot get my breath." "Then breathe, Mrs. Marsh." She breathed. Behind her, somewhere down the street, a screen door slammed. Then another, then a third. Doors were opening on Main Street. People were stepping out onto their porches now, no longer pretending at curtains, and the dust of Red Fork was thick with the eyes of the entire town. Hattie Marsh stood in the middle of the road, with her late husband's locket against her throat, and a man on one knee before her, and she said the only true thing she had said out loud in 3 years. Yes. His shoulders dropped half an inch. "Yes, Mr. Garrison, I will marry you." Sam Garrison rose to his feet. He did it slow. He did it like a man who was not sure his legs would carry the weight of what had just been put on them. He held out one hand. She took it. His hand closed around hers, warm and rough and shaking just enough that she felt it against her palm. "Mrs. Marsh." "Mr. Garrison?" "I would like to walk you home, ma'am." "There is a man in my house, sir." "I know it. I aim to walk you home anyhow, bye." Cyrus Marsh was waiting on her porch. He had brought the Winchester out with him. He had not loaded it. Hattie could see that from the gate. The chamber was open. The barrel rested against the porch post like a walking stick. But the message of it sat there as plain as a sermon. Sam Garrison did not let go of her hand. He did not slow down. He walked her right up to her own porch steps with Cyrus Marsh standing 6 feet off and the Winchester 2 feet from his right hand, and he tipped his hat to the man who had threatened to put him in the dirt before sundown. "Mr. Marsh." "Mr. I have just had the honor, sir, of being accepted in marriage by your sister-in-law." Cyrus Marsh's jaw did not move. "That a fact?" "It is, sir." "In the middle of the street." "In the middle of the street." "Like a circus. With witnesses, Mr. Marsh, on account of I did not want there to be any question later about the manner of my askin'." Cyrus Marsh looked at Hattie. He looked at her a long time. Hattie. "Cyrus, you understand what you have done?" "I do, sir." "You understand this house is not yours by sundown?" "I understand it, Cyrus." "You understand that the peach tree—" His voice caught a half-beat, the first thing she had ever seen catch in him. "The peach tree, Hattie, where my brother lies, is not yours either." The first crack came in her voice then. I understand. Hattie. I understand, Cyrus. You will pack your trunk, woman, and you will be off this property by dark. Yes, sir. And you will not set foot on this land again. No, sir. Not for any reason. No, sir. Not even... He had to stop. He looked away from her and his big hand on the porch post tightened. Not even on the anniversary. The tears spilled over then. She did not lift a hand to wipe them. No, sir, she whispered. Not even then. Sam Garrison's hand around hers did not loosen, but the muscle in his jaw moved. Mr. Marsh? Mister, I would ask a favor of you. You will ask me nothing. I would ask, sir, that the widow Marsh be permitted to visit her husband's grave one final time, this evening, before sundown, alone, sir, or with whatever company you see fit. Cyrus Marsh stared at him. You are asking that, are you? I am, sir. On her behalf. On my own, sir, since she has been too well raised to ask it. A long, hard pause. Half an hour, Cyrus Marsh said. I will sit on the porch with a watch. After half an hour, mister, I will come and get her, and I do not care what posture I find her in. Half an hour, Mr. Marsh, I thank you. Do not thank me, mister. I am doing it for my brother's sake, not yours and not hers. Just so, sir, Chechen. The walk to the peach tree was the longest walk Hattie Marsh had ever taken. Sam Garrison did not come with her. She had asked him not to. She had asked it without words, just a turn of her hand in his, a small loosening, and he had let her go and tipped his hat and gone to sit on the porch step opposite Cyrus, and he had not said a word. She walked through the parlor. She did not stop at Elias's chair. She walked through to the kitchen. She walked past the henhouse and the woodpile and the kitchen garden, and her boots came down on grass. She had cut 1,000 times, and her hand brushed the gate. She had hung herself the year after Elias died, because nobody else would come do it for a widow. She stood at the foot of the small fenced patch. She did not cross the fence. She stood there with her hands at her sides, and she said very low, Elias. The peach tree stirred. Elias, I have done a thing today. A breeze moved through the long grass. Elias, I have given another man my word. She drew breath. It came out of her ragged. You will say I gave it too soon. You will say 6 months of letters is not a courtship. You will say a widow waits a year and then another year and then a third, and only then does she put her black aside, and only with a man the whole town has approved of, and only after the deacons have stood in her parlor and weighed his character. I know you, Elias Marsh. I know what you would say. A pause. Isamanda. But Elias, my love, you have been 3 years gone, and I have been 3 years standing at this fence, asking you what to do, and you have not answered me one time. Her voice broke in half. And he answered me, Elias. He answered me every 11 days for 6 months. He told me about his mother and his horse, and the man he killed at cards, and he asked me what my laugh sounded like, and he wrote down my answer and kept it, Elias. He kept it. She put her hand on the fence post. I am leaving you tonight, Elias. I am leaving your brother's house, and I am leaving your peach tree, and I am leaving the stone you wanted set with no scripture on it, because you said scripture on a stone was vanity. I am leaving all of it, Elias. And I am taking nothing from this place but my trunk and my Bible and the locket you give me on our wedding day. She lifted the locket. She held it out a little from her throat. I am going to keep this, Elias. I am going to keep it on me until the day I die, and I am going to wear it under my dress where Sam Garrison will see it the first night, and never the second, and he will not begrudge me it. He is that manner of man. She let the locket fall back against her skin. I loved you, Elias Marsh. I loved you with the whole of me, and I love you yet, and the part of me that is buried under that tree is the part of me that will not be buried under any other. But I am 29 years old, my love, and you are not coming back. And there is a man on my porch, Elias, who has put a knee in the dust of Red Fork for me, and I... She could not finish. She lowered her face into her hand and wept. She wept the way she had not wept at the funeral. She wept the way she had not wept the morning after, nor the spring after, nor any of the long, dry, silent seasons since. She wept for the man under the dirt, and the child beside him, and the years she had stood at this fence, asking a dead man to give her permission to live. She wept until the half-hour was nearly gone. Then she lifted her face. She wiped it on her sleeve. She put her hand on the fence post one last time. "Goodbye, Elias." She turned. She did not look back. Cyrus Marsh was on his feet on the porch when she came around the side of the house. His pocket watch was in his hand. 28 minutes, Hattie." "I am back, Cyrus." "You are." "I will pack my trunk, sir, and I will be gone by dark." "You will." He turned and went into the house ahead of her. Sam Garrison stood up off the porch step. His hat was in his hand. "Mrs. Marsh?" "Mr. Garrison." "You all right, ma'am?" "No, sir, but I will be." He nodded once. "Tell me what to carry, ma'am." She packed her trunk in 14 minutes. She did not pack the daguerreotype. She did not pack Elias's pipe. She did not pack the Bible on the side table which had been his, and which she left open to the page he had read aloud the night before he took the fever. She packed her own Bible. She packed her clothes plain and dark, because she had no others. She packed her sewing kit and her hairbrush and the cedar box from under her bed. She paused with the cedar box in her hand. Then she walked it out to the parlor, where Sam Garrison stood waiting with his hat against his chest, and she set the cedar box on the table beside the ruined pie tin, and she said, "Mr. Garrison." "Ma'am." "This box has 6 months of letters in it." "Yes, ma'am." "They are yours, sir, as much as mine. And I would have you know, I burned exactly one of them last night before I came to my senses." A small thing moved at the corner of his mouth. "Which one, ma'am?" "The first, sir." I am sorry for it." "Mrs. Marsh." He took the cedar box up off the table. He held it like a man holding a christening dress. "Mrs. Marsh, you may burn the rest if it eases you. They done their work." She almost smiled. She did not have it in her yet to smile, but it was close. "Mr. Garrison." "Ma'am?" "Where will we go tonight?" "I have a room at Pell's, ma'am, paid through tomorrow." "I cannot go to Pell's." "No, ma'am. Mavis Coulter will have the sheriff at the door before the lamps are lit." "I have considered that, ma'am." She looked at him. "Have you now?" "I have." "And what have you considered, Mr. Garrison?" Sam Garrison set the cedar box down. He turned his hat in his hands. "Ma'am, there is a Methodist parsonage in this town." "There is, sir?" "There is a reverend in that parsonage, who by your own account this morning is the one man in Red Fork who has shown you charity." She went very still. "Sam." "Yes, ma'am." "You are not proposing what I think you are proposing." "I am proposing, Mrs. Marsh, that you and I walk to the parsonage of Reverend Pike, and that we lay our case before him, and that we ask him to read the lines over us tonight." "Tonight?" "Yes, ma'am." "Sam Garrison." "Yes, ma'am." "I have known you in person 9 hours." 6 months and 9 hours, ma'am." "In person, sir." "Mrs. Marsh." "Yes, sir. If we walk out of this house tonight unmarried and we go to Pell's, the sheriff will be at the door by 10. If we walk out and go to the livery, Mr. Hennessy will not let us a wagon. If we ride out on my horse, ma'am, alone together at dusk, we will be the talk of 3 counties before sunrise. And the talk, Mrs. Marsh, will not be the kind that lets a woman walk back into a town later and buy a sack of flour." "I know it, sir. If we walk out of this house married, ma'am, by the hand of Reverend Pike, then there is no sheriff to call. There is no question to ask. There is no woman with a parasol who can do me or you any harm in this world save by the wagging of her tongue, which I have lived with worse." She stared at him. "You have thought this through." "I have been thinking it through, ma'am, since 5 o'clock this morning." "Sam, you said yes to me an hour ago in the road, Mrs. Marsh. I am asking you to say it once more in front of the Reverend, and be done." A long silence. "And if I cannot, sir?" He nodded once. "Then I will see you on to the morning stage to Brownwood, ma'am, and I will pay your fare to wherever you wish to go, and I will not trouble you again." "Sam Garrison?" "Ma'am." "You would do that?" "I would." You would put me on a stage and let me go. Mrs. Marsh, I have ridden 320 miles to be a man you would have for a husband. I will not begin the work by making you one against your will." She closed her eyes. She opened them. "Sam?" "Yes, ma'am." "Take up that trunk, sir. We are going to the parsonage." They did not get 50 feet down Main Street. Mavis Coulter was waiting in the road with 3 women behind her. Hattie did not know 2 of them. The third was Eulalie Hart, whose husband owned the bank. Hattie Marsh. Mavis. "You will not pass." Sam Garrison set the trunk down in the dust. He did it slow. He did not let go of Hattie's elbow. "Ma'am, with your pardon." "You will keep your mouth shut, mister, until your betters have done speakin'. I am Mrs. Marsh's intended ma'am, and I am her business, and I will speak when I am spoken to, and a great deal besides." Mavis Coulter swung the parasol toward him. "You will not." "Mrs. Coulter." Hattie's voice came clear and steady out of her, and she was as surprised by it as anyone. "Mavis, step out of the road." "Hattie." "Step out of the road, Mavis." "You will not walk past me with your trunk and your stranger and your shameless face and pretend—" "Mavis." The word came out of Hattie like a struck nail. Mavis Coulter shut her mouth. "Mavis Coulter, I have known you 22 years. I sat next to you at every Sunday supper at the parsonage from the day I come to Red Fork. I held your boy on my lap when his fever was at its worst the winter of '74, when his own mother was too tired to lift him. I sewed your wedding dress, Mavis, with these hands. I sewed it free because you had no money, and I have never said a word to you of it since." Mavis Coulter's mouth worked. "Hattie, you will step out of the road." A silence. Eulalie Hart stepped out of the road. The 2 women whose names Hattie did not know stepped out of the road. Mavis Coulter stood alone. "Hattie." Her voice came out smaller than she meant it to. "Hattie, your husband." "My husband is dead, Mavis. 3 years." "Hattie, the Marsh family. The Marsh family has put me out of my house at sundown, with 1 trunk, and 1 Bible, and the clothes on my back, and no peach tree to visit ever again." Mavis Coulter went white. "Cyrus done that. Cyrus done that." "Hattie, step out of the road, Mavis. I am going to the parsonage to be married, and you are not going to stand in front of me 1 minute longer." Mavis Coulter stepped out of the road. Her parasol came down. Hattie Marsh walked past her in the dust of Red Fork without looking at her, and Sam Garrison picked up the trunk and walked at her shoulder, and the women on the porches of Main Street watched them pass, and not one of them, not one said a word. Reverend Pike opened the parsonage door himself. He looked at Hattie. He looked at Sam Garrison. He looked at the trunk. He did not say anything for a long moment. Then he said, "Come in, children." He stepped back. Hattie crossed the threshold. Sam Garrison set the trunk down inside the door. Reverend Pike closed the door behind them and put both hands flat on the wood and stood that way a long minute with his back to them. Then he turned. "Hattie." "Reverend, you have come to be married." "I have, sir." "Tonight." "Tonight, sir, if you will read the lines." The Reverend looked at Sam Garrison. "Mr. Garrison, is it?" "Yes, sir. Samuel R. Garrison of Fort Worth." "Mr. Garrison, what is your trade?" "I have been a drover, sir. I aim to put it down." "Have you means?" "I have $840 saved, sir, and a horse and a saddle and the clothes you see." "Have you faith?" "I have a Bible, sir, and I read it of an evening. I will not claim to be a better Christian than I am." "Will you swear to me, Mr. Garrison, before God, that you have come to this woman in good faith, and that you mean to keep her in honor till the day one of you is buried?" "I swear it, sir." "Will you swear, sir, that you knew not until this day that she was a widow?" "I swear it." "And the lie that was told you, you have forgiven it?" A pause. "Sir," Sam Garrison said, "I have not yet forgiven it. I aim to, but I will not stand in your parlor, Reverend, and tell you a thing that is not true." Reverend Pike was quiet a long moment. Then very slowly he smiled. "Mr. Garrison." "Sir." That is the answer of a man I will marry to a daughter of this church. He turned. Hattie, take off your widow's weeds, child. I will not read the lines over a woman in mournin' for the man before. Hattie Marsh's hand went to the locket at her throat. Reverend. Yes, child. I cannot take off the locket. I am not asking you to take off the locket, Hattie. I am asking you to take off the black. She nodded. She nodded a long time. Then she walked into the back room of the parsonage, and she closed the door behind her, and she opened her trunk on the floor of Reverend Pike's spare room, and she laid out on the bed of a man who had buried her husband 3 years ago, the only dress she owned that was not the color of grief. It was gray, pale gray. The dress she had worn the morning she cut the notice from the Galveston Tribune. She put it on. She came back out. Sam Garrison was standing in the parlor with his hat in both hands. He looked at her in the gray dress. He did not say anything for a long moment. Then he said very low, Mrs. Marsh. Mr. Garrison, you are the prettiest thing I have seen in my life. Reverend Pike opened his Bible. Stand up here, children, both of you, right here in front of me. They stood. Sam Garrison took her hand. His was shaking. So was hers. And out in the street of Red Fork, Texas, just as the sun went down behind the cottonwoods, the bell of the Methodist Church began to ring not for a wedding, for a fire. Reverend Pike's hand froze on the page. That ain't no weddin' bell. Sam Garrison's head turned to the window. Reverend? I know it, son. Where is the fire? By the sound, mister. The Reverend's voice had gone tight. It is east of the church, and there is nothing east of the church between here and the river, but... He did not finish. Hattie finished for him. My house. Hattie. My house, Reverend. You do not know that child. I know it. She was already at the door. Sam Garrison caught her wrist before her hand reached the latch. Hattie. Sam, let me go. Hattie, listen to me. Sam Garrison. That is the peach tree. That is Elias. Hattie, look at me. She looked at him. Her face was wild. Hattie, if that is your house, there is a man in it. A beat. Cyrus? Cyrus. She did not move. She did not breathe. Sam, he was on the porch when I left. I know it, ma'am. With the rifle. I know it. Sam, ma'am, I am going. You will stay with the Reverend. You will not. Mrs. Marsh. Sam Garrison, if you walk out that door without me, I will follow you barefoot, and I will never forgive you the 8 feet of road between us, so help me. A long pause. Sam Garrison let go of her wrist. Reverend, the lines will have to wait. They will, son. You will keep them ready. I will keep them till the rapture, mister, if it is needful. Sam Garrison set his hat on his head. Hattie, stay behind me until I say different. Yes, sir. And if I tell you to run, ma'am, you run. Yes, sir. He opened the door. The smell hit them before the sight did. The whole east end of Main Street was already on its feet. Men were running with buckets. The Tilghman boy was hauling at the harness of the fire wagon. Mavis Coulter, in her white parasol, stood frozen in front of the post office, with her mouth open. Sam Garrison did not look at any of them. He took Hattie's hand. He pulled her into the road. Stay with me. I am with you. They ran. Hattie did not feel her feet. She felt the dust rising under her gray skirt and the locket bouncing hard against her collarbone and Sam Garrison's hand around hers like a piece of iron. Halfway down Main Street, the Tilghman boy thundered past on the fire wagon and shouted at them. Mr. Garrison, sir, hold up. Sam slowed. Boy. Mr. Garrison, sir, the fire ain't the house. What? It ain't the house, sir. What is it then? It is the peach tree, mister. The peach tree in the back fence. The whole patch is going up. Hattie made a sound. It was not a word. It was the sound of something coming loose inside her. The Graves boy. The fence is down, sir, and the grass is dry, and the wind is comin' off the river, and... He could not finish. He cracked the reins. The fire wagon rattled past. Sam Garrison pulled Hattie hard against his side. Hattie! Sam. Hattie, listen to me. We are going there. Yes. But if I tell you to step back, ma'am. Yes. You step back. Sam Garrison, that is my husband under that tree. I know it, ma'am, and he would tell you to step back too. She closed her eyes 1 second. She opened them. Run, Sam. They ran. Cyrus Marsh was on his knees in the grass beside the burning fence. He had not been touched by the fire. He had a wet flour sack in each hand, and he was beating at the line of flame that had crossed his brother's grave and was eating its way toward the kitchen garden. He was crying. Cyrus Marsh, who had not cried at his brother's funeral, was crying out loud in the dirt of his brother's farm. Sam Garrison did not stop to watch. He stripped his coat off in 3 motions and ran for the pump. Tilghman boy. Sir. Wet the sacks, every sack you got. Yes, sir. And get a man on that house. The wind shifts, the kitchen goes. Yes, sir. Hattie did not go for the pump. Hattie went for Cyrus. She knelt down in the burning grass beside her brother-in-law of 9 years, and she put her 2 hands flat over his hands on the flour sack, and she beat the fire with him. Cyrus! Hattie, get back! Cyrus! Get back, woman, your skirt! Cyrus! He looked at her. His face was streaked with smoke and salt. Hattie the tree. I see it. Hattie the tree is gone. I see it, Cyrus. He is gone, Hattie, the second time. He is gone the second time, and I could not. His voice broke. She kept her hands on his. Cyrus beat the fire. Hattie? Beat the fire. Cyrus. Morn after. He beat the fire. She beat it with him. It was Sam Garrison and the Tilghman boy, and 3 men from the lumberyard, and a Mexican drover whose name nobody knew who turned the wind. They wet the kitchen wall down with 12 buckets in 5 minutes. They cut a fire break with a borrowed plow. Sam Garrison took the plow himself when the lumberyard man's hands gave out, and he ran a furrow from the henhouse to the back fence without stopping, and when the line of fire reached the furrow, it shuddered and crawled and lay down. The wind came off the river and turned. The flames bent away from the kitchen. The flames bent away from the house. The flames bent toward the open pasture where there was nothing left to burn but grass and the night. It took an hour to put down the rest. Hattie Marsh did not move from her brother-in-law's side. She beat the fire with him until the flour sack came apart in her hands. She beat it with her bare palms after that, until Sam Garrison reached down and lifted her up and pulled her back, and she did not have it in her to fight him. She stood with her gray dress black at the hem, and her hands red, and her hair come loose, and she looked at the place where the peach tree had stood for 40 years. It was a stump and 2 stones. The stones were standing. The stones were black with smoke, but they were standing. Hattie Marsh sank to her knees in the ash. Sam Garrison sank with her. He did not say anything. He put 1 arm around her shoulders, and he held her, and he did not say anything for a long, long time. Cyrus Marsh came over to them after the men had gone. He had washed his face at the pump. His shirt was burned through in 3 places. His gray beard was singed black on the right side. He stood over them. He did not speak. Sam Garrison rose. Mr. Marsh? Mr. Sit down, sir, before you fall down. Cyrus Marsh did not sit. He looked down at Hattie on her knees in the ash, and his big hands hung at his sides like things that did not belong to him. Hattie. Cyrus. Hattie, I done it. She did not look up. Cyrus, what did you do? I done it, Hattie. What did you do? A long silence. I went out there with a kerosene can. She lifted her head. Cyrus. I went out there with a kerosene can. Hattie and I aimed to burn the fence. I aimed to burn the fence so that when you came back in years to come, there would be no fence to stand at. There would be no marking of the place. There would be no peach tree. She put her hand over her mouth. Cyrus! I done it because I was angry, Hattie. I done it because I was angry at you and at him and at my brother for dying and leaving the rest of us to settle his accounts, and I done it because I am a small man, woman. I am a smaller man than my brother was." His voice broke. "And I lit the match, Hattie, and I throwed it, and the wind come up off the river and the grass took, and I tried, Hattie. I tried to put it out. I tried, woman. I tried with my hands." She looked at his hands. They were burned. Not bad. Bad enough. "Cyrus." "Hattie, you are an old fool." "I am, woman." "You are a small man." "I am." "You are my brother-in-law, and I have known you 9 years, and you have hated me 8 of them." "I have, Hattie." "And the peach tree is gone, Cyrus. The peach tree my husband planted the spring after our wedding." "It is gone." "It is gone because of you." "Yes, Hattie." She got to her feet. She got to her feet slow, the way an old woman gets up. Her knees did not want to hold her. Sam Garrison started forward, and she lifted one hand, without looking at him, and he stopped. She walked up to Cyrus Marsh, and she stood in front of him, and she looked up into his big, tired, ruined face. "Cyrus Marsh." "Hattie, you will come into the house with me." His eyes filled. "Hattie, you will come into the house. Cyrus and I will draw water for your hands, and I will put salve on the burns, and you will sit in your brother's chair, sir, and you will eat the bread that is in my pantry." "Hattie, the deed." "I do not care about the deed." "Hattie." "I do not care, Cyrus. The deed was never the matter. The matter was that you were the only piece of him left walking the earth, and I have been afraid of you 9 years, and I will not be afraid of you tonight." His mouth worked. He did not speak. "Come in the house, Cyrus." He came. He came like a child. Sam Garrison did not come into the house. He stood at the back door, and he caught Hattie's hand as she passed him, and he said very low, "Mrs. Marsh." "Mr. Garrison." "Are you sure, ma'am?" "Sam, he is the only brother my husband had." "He burned the tree, ma'am." "He burned the tree, Sam, because he could not bear it. I have known him 9 years, and I have never once seen him cry. I will not put him out of his brother's house tonight." "Hattie, you may stay on the porch, sir, if you cannot come in." "I will come in, ma'am." "Sam." "Yes, ma'am." "Thank you." "For what, ma'am?" "For not asking me to be a smaller woman than I am." He held her hand a moment. Then he tipped his hat, and he came in behind her, and he closed the door. It was nearly midnight before Cyrus Marsh laid down on the spare room bed and slept. Hattie had washed his hands. She had spread tallow salve on the burns. She had sat across from him at the kitchen table and watched him eat half a loaf of yesterday's bread and 3 boiled eggs and a slice of last week's ham, and she had not said one word the whole time, and neither had he. When he was done, he had stood. He had picked up his Winchester from where it leaned against the wall. He had set it on the table. "Hattie?" "Cyrus?" This was Elias's. "I know it. I have carried it because there was nobody else in the family to carry it." "Yes, Cyrus. You will carry it now." She looked at the rifle. She looked at her brother-in-law. "Cyrus?" "There is land at the edge of town, Hattie, the Harmon place. Old man Harmon went under 3 years ago, and his children sold it back to the bank. Eulalie Hart's husband holds the paper." "Cyrus, what are you saying?" "I am saying, woman, that the Marsh family is going to put up the money for that land." She could not speak. "And the Marsh family is going to deed it, Hattie, to Mrs. Samuel Garrison." "Cyrus." "In her own name. Not her husband's. Hers." "Cyrus, you cannot." "I can, woman. I am the head of the family, and I can do what I like with the family money, and I am telling you what I will do with it." She stared at him. "Why?" A long pause. "Because I burned the tree, Hattie." "Cyrus, and because Elias would have put a fist through my jaw tonight, and I would have deserved it, and you have not raised your hand to me one time." "Cyrus?" "And because, woman," his voice was very low, "because there has not been a Marsh in this town who buried a wife and did not take another. My father took 2. My grandfather took 3. Elias would have Hattie in time if it had been you that went first. Cyrus, do not say that. It is true, woman. He told me so himself, 3 weeks before the fever took him. He said, Cyrus, if I go before her, she is to marry again, and the man who takes her is to be treated as my brother, or you and I will have words in the world to come. Hattie's hand went to her mouth. Cyrus. I have known it 3 years, Hattie. Cyrus. I have known it, and I have held it from you because I could not stand to give it up. I could not stand to be the one to release you. The tears were coming down her face. She did not wipe them. And then your stranger come riding into town, and I lost my head, woman. I lost my head, and I lit a match, and I am ashamed before God. He pushed the rifle across the table to her. Take the gun, Hattie. She took the gun. Tomorrow morning I will ride down to Mr. Hart at the bank, and I will buy the Harmon place in your name, and I will put the deed in your hand, and I will ride home to San Saba on the noon stage, and you will not see me in Red Fork again unless you send for me. Cyrus. Hattie. I will send for you. He stopped. He looked at her. You will. I will, Cyrus. At Christmas. And in the spring. And every anniversary, sir, until I am put in the dirt myself. He could not answer. He nodded. He nodded a long time. Then he picked up his hat, and he went into the spare room, and he closed the door. Sam Garrison was on the porch when she came out. He was sitting on the top step with his hat on his knee. She sat down beside him. She did not say anything for a long time, neither did he. Then she said, Sam. Hattie. I have a piece of land. I know it, ma'am. I heard through the door. I have a piece of land in my own name. Yes, ma'am. And a husband-to-be, sir, who has $840 and a horse and a saddle. $838.40, ma'am, after the room at Pell's. She laughed. It came out of her before she could stop it. It came out wet and broken and surprised. Sam Garrison. Yes, ma'am. You are a strange manner of man. I have been called worse, Mrs. Marsh. You are not Mrs. Marsh's intended any longer, sir. You are Mrs. Garrison's intended. He turned the hat slow in his hands. Mrs. Garrison. Provided, sir, the Reverend is still awake. He looked at her. Hattie? Sam? You want to do it tonight, ma'am? I do, sir. After all this? Because of all this, Sam. A pause. I do not have a ring, Mrs. Marsh. I do not need a ring, Sam Garrison. My mother had one. My mother's ring. It is in my saddlebag at Pell's. Then you will give it me tomorrow, sir. Hattie. Sam! She turned to face him fully. The locket was warm at her throat. The gray dress was black at the hem. Her hands were red. Sam Garrison. I have been a widow 3 years, and I have been an engaged woman half a day, and tonight I have buried the peach tree that was the last thing my husband planted on this earth. I have nothing left, sir, to be afraid of. He put his hand against her cheek. It was the first time he had touched her face. His hand was rough and warm and smelled of smoke. Mrs. Marsh. Mr. Garrison. Let us go and find the Reverend. Reverend Pike opened the door in his nightshirt with a kerosene lamp in his hand. He looked at the pair of them, at her gray dress black with ash, and her hands red, and her hair come down at his shirt, burned through, and his face streaked with soot, and his coat gone, and he did not say one word. He stepped back. He set the lamp on the table. He picked up the Bible. Children. Reverend. Stand here, right here in front of me. They stood. He opened the book. His voice came out of him quiet and certain, like a man reading by a sickbed. Dearly beloved. He read the lines. He read them all the way through. He asked Sam Garrison if he would have this woman. Sam Garrison said, I will. He asked Hattie Marsh if she would have this man. She said, I will. He pronounced them by the laws of the state of Texas, and by the eyes of God, husband and wife. And in the parlor of the parsonage in Red Fork, Texas, with the smell of smoke still on her dress, and the locket of her first husband warm against her throat and her hand red and trembling in the rough, warm hand of her second, Hattie Garrison kissed her husband for the first time. It was not a long kiss. It was not a grand kiss. It was the kiss of two people who had walked through fire together and come out the other side, and it was the kind of kiss that does not require any audience but the kissing. Reverend Pike closed the Bible. He set it down on the table. He cleared his throat. "Children, Reverend, you will sleep in my spare bed tonight." "Sir, you will sleep in it, Mr. Garrison, with my blessing, and I will sleep in the parlor, and we will speak no more on the matter." He picked up the lamp. He took it with him to the parlor, and he closed the door behind him, and the parsonage went quiet. Hattie Garrison stood in her gray dress in the dim of Reverend Pike's parlor, and she looked up at her husband, and she said very low, "Sam." "Mrs. Garrison." "It has been a day, sir." "It has been a day, ma'am." "I am very tired." "I expect you are." "I am very glad." "I expect you are that too." She put her face against his shirt. His shirt smelled of smoke. His arms came around her shoulders, slow and careful, like a man putting his hand on a thing he had been told he would never be allowed to hold. And in the dark of the parsonage with her brother-in-law asleep 2 miles away in her dead husband's house, and her peach tree gone, and her old life closed behind her like a door, Hattie Garrison stood in the arms of her new husband and listened to his heart under her ear. It beat steady. It beat slow. It beat like a thing she could lay her own life down beside and not be afraid. The knock at the parsonage came before sunrise. It was not a polite knock. Sam Garrison was on his feet with his pistol in his hand before Hattie's eyes were open. "Sam?" "Stay in the bed, ma'am." "Sam who?" "Stay in the bed." He pulled the door of the spare room closed behind him. Reverend Pike was already at the front door in his nightshirt. The kerosene lamp shook in his hand. "Who is there at this hour?" "Aldous Pike, you open this door." The Reverend's hand went still on the latch. "Sheriff?" "Open it, Aldous." Sam Garrison stepped into the parlor with the pistol down at his side. Reverend Pike looked at him. Sam Garrison nodded once. The Reverend opened the door. Sheriff Bartholomew Coulter stood on the parsonage step with his hat on, and his star pinned to his coat and his Colt revolver in his right hand, hammer-back barrel toward the floor. Behind him on the road stood Mavis Coulter, white-faced, both hands at her mouth. "Aldous?" "Sheriff." "Where is the man?" "Bartholomew, you put up that pistol." "Where is the man, Aldous?" "He is here, sir," Sam Garrison said. "I am here." The sheriff's eyes went past the Reverend. "Garrison." "Sheriff." "You will come with me." Sam Garrison did not move. "Sir, I would be obliged to know the charge." "The charge, mister, is the burnin' of the Marsh property." A silence. Hattie's voice came from the spare room. "What?" She was at the bedroom door in her shift with her gray dress over one arm. "Sheriff Coulter, what did you say?" "Hattie, you stay back." "Sheriff Coulter, you say that again." Sheriff Coulter's jaw worked. "Mrs. Marsh, your brother-in-law, has filed a complaint at my office not 1 hour ago. He has named Mr. Samuel Garrison as the man who set the fire on his late brother's land." The room went still. Hattie Garrison opened her mouth. She closed it. She opened it again. "Sheriff?" "Ma'am?" "Cyrus Marsh did what?" "He has filed a complaint, ma'am, sworn before 2 witnesses at the office of the Justice of the Peace that Mr. Garrison entered the Marsh property at sundown last night and set fire to the peach tree in an effort to drive the family from the land." "Sheriff Coulter, that is a lie." "Mrs. Marsh." "That is a lie, sir." "Ma'am, the complaint is sworn. It is sworn by a man who was burnin' his own dead brother's tree with a kerosene can, sir, and who confessed it to me at his brother's kitchen table not 5 hours ago." The sheriff went very still. "Ma'am?" "He confessed it, Sheriff Coulter, to me, with Sam Garrison standin' on the porch behind him." "Mrs. Marsh, you are speakin' against a kinsman." "I am speakin' the truth, sir." The sheriff looked at Sam Garrison. He looked at the Reverend. He looked back at Hattie. "Where is Cyrus Marsh now, ma'am?" He was sleepin' in the spare room of his brother's house when I left at 10:30 last evening. He was not there, ma'am, when my deputy went to fetch him a quarter hour ago. A cold went down Hattie's spine. Sheriff. Ma'am? Where is he then? He is at the office of Mr. Hart, ma'am, at the bank. He has been there since 5 o'clock this morning. He is by Mr. Hart's account making a withdrawal of $700 in cash. Hattie stared. What? $700, ma'am, against the Marsh family account, in paper notes. He has asked for them tied up in a saddlebag. Sam Garrison's hand on the pistol grip relaxed by a degree. Sheriff. Mister? You are telling me the man who filed the complaint is at the bank tying up $700 in a saddlebag. I am Mister. And he filed the complaint against me an hour before that. He did. And you come here to arrest me on the strength of it. I come here, mister, on account of that be in my office. A pause. Sheriff Coulter, Sam Garrison said, I will come with you to the bank. Mister, I will come with you, sir, unarmed, and I will stand in the lobby of Mr. Hart's bank, and we will see together what manner of business Cyrus Marsh has at 5 o'clock in the morning, with $700 in his hand. The sheriff's jaw worked. He looked at his wife on the road. Mavis Coulter had her 2 hands at her mouth. She had not lowered them. Bartholomew. Her voice came thin. Bartholomew, the man is right. Mavis, you stay out of this. Bartholomew, you go to the bank with him. Mavis, you go to the bank, husband. You go to the bank and you find out what Cyrus Marsh has been doing. The sheriff put up the hammer of his pistol. He holstered it. Garrison. Sheriff. You walk in front of me. Hands where I can see 'em. Yes, sir. And Mrs. He stopped. He tipped his hat. Mrs. Garrison, ma'am. Hattie's breath caught. It was the first time anyone in Red Fork had said it. Yes, Sheriff. You will come with us, ma'am, if you please. I will, sir. Cyrus Marsh was in the lobby of the First Cattleman's Bank with the saddlebag at his feet and a coffee cup in his hand when the door opened. He turned. He saw Sam Garrison. He saw Hattie. He set the coffee cup down very slowly. Sheriff. Cyrus. You have brought me my prisoner. Cyrus Marsh. Sheriff. Mister, I have known you 14 years. You have. In all that time, sir, I have not known you to lie. A pause. Sheriff? Yes, Cyrus. You will need to ask the question plain. Did Samuel Garrison set the fire on your brother's land? A long, hard silence. Cyrus Marsh set the coffee cup down. He picked the saddlebag up from the floor. He held it out to Hattie. Hattie? Cyrus. This is the $700. Cyrus, what are you? Hattie, take it. She did not take it. Cyrus Marsh, you answer the sheriff. I will answer him, Hattie, after you take the bag. I will not take the bag until you answer the sheriff, sir. A pause. Sheriff Coulter? Cyrus? I lied. A small sound came out of Mavis Coulter at the door. Not a word. A breath. Sheriff, I lied at your justice's office 1 hour ago. I swore against a man who did me no harm, and I swore him into a noose, and I am telling you now, I done it because I am a coward. Cyrus. Hattie, take the bag. I will not, Cyrus. Hattie, take it. The Marsh family owes Mrs. Samuel Garrison $700 and the deed to the Harmon place, and I aim to settle the bill before the sun is up. Cyrus Marsh, why? Because I lit the match, Hattie. I know it, sir. And I sat in the bed of my brother's house last night, and I could not sleep, and I thought to myself, Cyrus, you have been a small man too long. You have been small at every door. You have been small at his wedding, and small at his funeral, and small at his widow's table, and now you are small in the ash of his peach tree, and the Lord will not have it. He pushed the bag at her. She did not lift her hand. Take it, Hattie. Cyrus. Take it, woman. Why did you go to the sheriff before you come to the bank, Cyrus? A long pause. Because I am a coward, Hattie. Sir, I rode out before sunup. I rode to the sheriff's office and I made my complaint and I lied in my throat and I done it because I thought if your husband was in a cell by sundown today, then I would not have to face you in this bank with $700 in my hand. I would not have to face you, Hattie, with the truth of what I had done. Hattie put her hand against her mouth. Cyrus. I rode to the bank after Hattie. Mr. Hart was not yet in. I sat on the step and waited him. And in the dark on that step, woman, I saw the face of my brother. His voice broke. I saw the face of Elias Hattie, as plain as I see you. And he did not say one word to me. He looked at me, and he looked at me, and I could not bear it. Cyrus Marsh sank slowly down to his knees on the floor of the First Cattleman's Bank. Sheriff. Cyrus, get up. Sheriff, I am making my confession before you, and before God, and before the woman my brother loved, and I will not get up till it is done. Cyrus Marsh, you are a damn fool. I am sheriff. Get up. I will get up, sir, when she has the bag. Hattie Garrison took the bag. She took it slow. She took it with both hands. It was heavy, heavier than she had reckoned. Cyrus. Hattie, you are forgiven. He closed his eyes. He nodded. He nodded a long time. Then he got up. He turned to the sheriff. Sheriff Coulter, I will come with you to the justice's office. I will withdraw my complaint, and I will swear a new one against myself for the burnin' of the property, and I will pay whatever fine the law requires, and I will ride home to San Saba on the noon stage. Cyrus. Sheriff. You will not do that. Sir, the law. The law. Cyrus is the law. And the fire was on your own land. And there has been no harm done to any person, and no theft, and no riot. You will withdraw your complaint, sir, and you will pay for the wagon loads of timber to set the back fence right, and you will get on the noon stage, and you will not be seen in this town until Mrs. Garrison sends for you. Cyrus Marsh looked at the sheriff. Bartholomew. Cyrus. Why are you doing me this kindness? The sheriff looked at his wife on the threshold. Mavis Coulter had not lowered her hands from her mouth. Cyrus. The sheriff said, I've been married to that woman 21 years, and I have seen her do many a wrong thing in many a small way, and I have never one time seen her stand on a road in a parasol and tell a widow to step aside. And last night Cyrus, my wife, come home and would not eat her supper. She would not eat it, Cyrus, because she had stood in a road and said a thing she could not take back. Mavis Coulter's eyes shut tight. And I will not, sir, the sheriff went on, have the second wrong of this town piled on the first. We have been small enough, the lot of us. We will not be smaller today. He tipped his hat. Mrs. Garrison. Hattie could not speak. Mrs. Garrison, ma'am? Sheriff? Welcome to Red Fork. Sir. Mavis Coulter caught Hattie's elbow on the porch of the bank. She did not say anything for a long moment. Her hand was shaking. Hattie. Mavis. Hattie, I cannot say it. You do not have to say it, Mavis. I have been a small woman, Hattie. We have all been small, Mavis. I have been the smallest, Hattie. Mavis. Hattie, my boy. Yes, Mavis. You held him on your lap, Hattie, the winter of '74, with his fever. I remember. I have not forgot it, Hattie. I have not forgot it one day. Mavis. Yes, Hattie. Come to the buildin' of the new house. A pause. Hattie. Come to it, Mavis. You and the sheriff. You bring a hammer. You bring your boy. You stand on the porch the day we raise it, and you put the first nail in with me. Mavis Coulter put both hands over her face. She wept. She wept the way Hattie had wept at the peach tree, the way Cyrus had wept in the ash, the way grown people weep when a thing has come uncrossed inside them at last. Hattie. Mavis. I will be there, Hattie. So help me God. Yin. The Harmon place was deeded to Mrs. Samuel Garrison at 9:30 that morning. Mr. Hart wrote it up himself. He used the good ink. He signed it with a flourish, and he handed it across the desk to Hattie with both hands, and he said, Mrs. Garrison. Mr. Hart. My wife will be by this afternoon. Sir. Eulalie. She has set herself to bake a cake for you, ma'am. She begs your pardon for not baking it sooner. Hattie Garrison stood in the bank with the deed in her hand and a saddlebag of $700 over her shoulder and her husband's hand on her elbow, and she could not for the moment get her breath. Mr. Hart. Yes, Mrs. Garrison. Tell Mrs. Hart I will have the cake. Yes, ma'am. With pleasure, sir. Yes, ma'am. And tell her, Mr. Hart, that I will have her hand on the porch at the raisin of the house alongside Mrs. Coulter's. Mr. Hart's eyes filled. He cleared his throat. I will tell her, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Hart. Thank you, Mrs. Garrison. Cyrus Marsh got on the noon stage. He did not bring the rifle. He had left it on the kitchen table of his brother's house, and he had told Hattie to keep it, and he had told her to teach her sons to shoot it straight when the day come. He did not say goodbye. He tipped his hat to her at the stage step. She tipped her chin to him. That was all. But before he climbed up, he turned back and he said very low, Hattie, Cyrus. I will come for Christmas. You will, Cyrus. And the spring. And the spring, Cyrus. And every anniversary. Every anniversary, Cyrus. Hattie. Yes. My brother was the best man I ever knew. He was Cyrus. And the man you have married now? His voice was very steady. The man you have married now will do, Hattie. He will do. He climbed up. He did not look back. The stage rolled out of Red Fork at 12 minutes past the hour. They raised the house on the Harmon place in 18 days. Sam Garrison hired 4 men out of the lumberyard. The Tilghman boy came out and did the stable. The Mexican drover, whose name nobody had known, it was Esteban Reyes, it turned out, and he had a wife and 3 children in a sod house at the edge of the river, came out with his eldest boy and put up the chicken coop in a single afternoon. Mavis Coulter brought a basket of hot bread every morning and would not be paid for it. Eulalie Hart brought her cake. Reverend Pike brought a Bible for the front room and would not say where the money for it had come from, though Hattie suspected Mr. Hart. On the 18th day, when the porch was set and the door was hung, Hattie Garrison stood on the new step of her new house in her gray dress, which she had washed 3 times and could not get the smoke out of, and she looked at her husband and she said, Sam. Mrs. Garrison. I want a peach tree, sir. He nodded. He had been waiting for her to ask. I have spoke to Mr. Tilghman, ma'am. There is a sapling at his nursery. From the same stock. From the same stock, ma'am. Old Mr. Marsh planted them out of one root all them years ago. Her hand went to her throat. Sam Garrison. Yes, ma'am. You knew. I knew, ma'am. How long, sir? Since the mornin' after the fire, Mrs. Garrison. I rode out to Tillman's at dawn and made the arrangement before breakfast. She closed her eyes 1 second. She opened them. Bring me the sapling, Sam. Yes, ma'am. Bring me the sapling, sir, and bring me a spade. He brought them both. She planted the tree herself. She would not let any other hand touch it. She set it in the dirt at the back of the new house, in the patch she had marked out the first week, and she put both her bare palms flat on the dirt around the root, and she said very low, Elias. The wind moved. Elias, you got a tree at the new place, my love. From your daddy's stock, from the same root. She patted the dirt. You will know the taste of it, Elias, when the fruit comes, wherever you are. She rose. She wiped her hands on her apron. She turned to her husband. Sam. Mrs. Garrison. There is one thing more. Yes, ma'am. I would have you carry me across the threshold, sir. Mrs. Garrison. Yes, Mr. Garrison. It would be my privilege. He carried her. He carried her across the threshold of the house she had bought with the money of a man who had wronged her, and asked her forgiveness, and the labor of a town that had wronged her, and asked her forgiveness, and the love of a man who had ridden 320 miles on the strength of 6 months of letters, and the courage of a woman who had stopped at last asking a dead man for permission to live. He set her down inside. He took off his hat. He kissed her. It was a longer kiss than the one in the parsonage. It was not their last. The first peach came off the new tree the second summer. Hattie Garrison made a pie of it. She made it on a Sunday morning with her son Elias on her hip. She had named him without asking anyone, and Sam had put his hand on the boy's head the day he was born, and said, "It is a fine name, Mrs. Garrison, and it is the right one." And she carried the pie across the road in the dust of Red Fork, Texas, just like the day 3 summers before. She did not drop it this time. She carried it to the porch of the Coulter's house, and she set it on Mavis Coulter's table. And she sat down at that table with her son on her lap, and Mavis Coulter across from her, and they ate the pie together, the two of them, and they did not speak for a long time, and they did not need to. Many years later, when the boy Elias was a man of his own with a family of his own, and the second boy Samuel was running the cattle on the south pasture, and the daughter Ruth was teaching school in the new building they had put up at the edge of town, Hattie Garrison sat on her porch with her husband, and she watched the sun fall behind the cottonwoods, and she put her hand in his. "Sam, Mrs. Garrison, do you reckon, sir, that he forgave me?" Sam Garrison did not have to ask who she meant. He did not answer at first. He looked at the peach tree at the back of the house, which had grown tall and heavy, and which dropped its fruit every August into the long grass beneath, and which the children climbed in the spring when the blossoms came. He looked at the locket she still wore every day under her dress, where he had never once asked her to take it off. "Hattie, Sam, I reckon a man who tells his brother to see his wife took care of 3 weeks before the fever takes him, I reckon that man, ma'am, did not have much to forgive." She closed her eyes. She put her head against his shoulder. "Sam Garrison." "Yes, Mrs. Garrison. I am the most fortunate woman in the state of Texas." "You are, ma'am." "Sam." "Yes, ma'am." "Say it back to me." "You are the most fortunate woman in the state of Texas, Mrs. Garrison." "And you, sir." He turned his face down to hers. "I am the man, ma'am, who got the letter back." The wind moved through the peach tree. A single hard fruit dropped into the long grass. And on the porch of the Harmon place in the dust of Red Fork, Texas, with the locket of her first husband warm against her throat and the rough warm hand of her second laid across her own, Hattie Garrison knew the way. A body knows water and bread, and the first cool air at the end of summer. The one true thing she had spent the whole of her life learning: a woman is not given her worth by the man who marries her, nor the man who buries her, nor the town that judges her, nor the family that puts her out of doors. A woman is given her worth by the choices she makes when every door is closed and every voice is against her, and the only ground she has left to stand on is the ground beneath her own 2 feet. Hattie Garrison had stood on that ground. She had stood on it in the middle of a dusty road with the whole town watching, and she had said yes to a stranger she had only ever met on paper, and she had walked through fire that very night, and she had built a house with her own 2 hands on land, deeded in her own name, and she had planted a peach tree from her dead husband's stock at the back of it, and she had raised 3 children under it, and she had lived to see them grown. And the woman who had dropped a peach pie in the dust of Red Fork on a summer afternoon in 1878, that woman by every right and reckoning had not been dead at all. That woman had only been waiting. And when her name was called at last from the dust of a road by a stranger with a hat in his hand, she had set the broken pie down, and she had stepped forward, and she had answered. That is how a life is built. That is the only way it has ever been built. And that is how it will be built by every woman who has ever stood at the edge of her own grief and chosen against every voice that told her otherwise to live.